Joe Joyce has taken social media to call out Joseph Parker. From what I've seen, Parker is yet to respond, but I figured that we could take a chance and discuss this fight in the meantime. Personally, I actually quite like this fight. I think it has the potential to be a good, entertaining scrap, but also I think it serves to be a logical next step for Joe Joyce in his career. Parker has only lost officially twice to Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte. I say officially because personally I actually had Derek Chisora winning that Parker fight back in May. But nevertheless, on paper, Joseph Parker has only lost twice. But I think even though I see this as being a decent fight, I don't think that it would come at the best time for Joseph Parker. For my money, and I think many would agree, that Joseph Parker has kind of been out in the wilderness for probably a few years now, because he lost to Joshua, then a few months later he lost to Whyte, and he hasn't really been able to claw back much momentum or much good form since then. And I don't think that Joseph Parker is in a very good place right now. I think his morale is on a steady decline. And even though he won against Derek Chisora last time out back in May, it wasn't a good performance. It was actually a very disappointing performance, in my opinion. And a fight that I think he lost, but also he got roughed up by Derek Chisora. And that's what Derek Chisora brings. We know that. That's why people pay to see him, because he'll just come and he'll punch and punch and punch until he can't punch anymore. But the fact is that Joseph Parker he couldn't deter Derek Chisora. He didn't have enough explosiveness. He didn't have enough skill and IQ. And unsurprisingly, he didn't have enough grit to keep Chisora off. And it gets to a point where you struggle to give a guy a chance in his highest level fights when he can't grab the fight by the scruff of the neck. I was very disappointed I have been very disappointed in the lack of culture in Joseph Parker's, in his boxing. He doesn't seem to be engaging his brain that much. And maybe he just doesn't have that aspect to his skill set, but it makes it tough for you to give him a chance in these fights. And going into a Joe Joyce fight, I would have to firmly favour Joe Joyce, because he has a lot of momentum going into a potential fight. He's been but fairly active. He's fought recently and he's winning in quite dominant fashion. He's putting guys away. He's damaging them. He's breaking eye sockets, all that stuff. And I think a couple of years ago, this fight would be a lot more even. I think that Joseph Parker would have, because he has the attributes. He has the explosiveness. He has the movement around the ring. He's very mobile at times, and he's got good work rate. He's got good stamina. Lacks the IQ, lacks the setup of his punches, but I think he'd have a much better chance of kind of maybe being able to befuddle Joe Joyce. But Joyce, he's going in the right direction, and he sniffs out the lack of heart, I think. And you can't afford, there are certain fighters who you really can't afford to have like a lack of desire against, and Joe Joyce is one of them, because Joe Joyce, I think, just guarantees you a hard fight just based on his style alone and his attributes. So yeah, if this fight was to happen, I'd be firmly picking Joe Joyce. Probably not by stoppage. I do think that at this point Parker would be wily enough and still have his mobility to avoid taking too much punishment and therefore be able to go to points. But I don't think he'd be able to get much done in the rounds to earn a decision. That's just my opinion though. And hopefully this fight does happen. Joe Joyce is kind of in pole position to take on the winner of Anthony Joshua versus Usyk, from what I know. But you have to imagine that potential fight against the winner would probably be a little way down the road, because you have to imagine that if Usyk wins and he beats Joshua, there'll be a rematch. That means that Joyce has to wait for 2 fights. But then if Joshua wins, he might have another mandatory from one of the other belts, or go back into talks with Tyson Fury. But then Tyson Fury's got the Deontay Wilder thing. So Joyce is doing the right thing, and he's fighting his rivals, his contemporaries now, rather than just waiting until he gets his shot. So credit to him. And I can't imagine that Joseph Parker would turn this fight down. Yeah, we have criticisms of Joseph Parker as a fighter in the ring, but outside the ring, I don't think he doesn't seem to shy away from challenges much, not from what I've seen of his career. So I'd actually expect him to accept a Joe Joyce fight. Whether it happens is a different story, because I think Joseph Parker's on DAZN, whereas Joe Joyce is on BT Sport with Frank Warren. So whether it happens or not, it's a different story. But I do expect Joe Parker to, at the bare minimum, be up for the fight. And then we'll see what happens from there. So let me know your take on this potential fight. Do you think it's a good fight? Do you think it's a bad fight? If you think it's a bad fight, who would you rather see both guys take on instead? If you could like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, it's greatly appreciated. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you on the next video.